Hi, I'm in the middle of a bunch of things and there's no cohesion to these things other than I'm trying to read down my TBR, and these are the books that I have right now, so let's talk about what I have. I am currently reading a highly anticipated book, Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher. T. Kingfisher is one of my favorite authors of all time. I'm almost halfway through this one. Loving it. It's so good. This is a Snow White retelling all about a woman who is studying poisons, and she gets a visit from the king one day who says, I think my daughter Snow is being poisoned. Will you come help us figure it out? And I'm loving this. I love the main character. It has that sarcastic quality that T. Kingfisher's books always have. I'm enjoying the aspect of this where we're learning about poisons and how someone would go about figuring out if someone was poisoned, and then also like how to cure them if you figure out that they're poisoned. I'm loving this one. I think it's going to be a really highly rated one of hers, and probably one of the ones I've loved the most from her in a while. So I'm excited to continue in this one. Though I will say, I hate these sprayed edges. I wish they were like a red, like the apple, or maybe like a nicer green, rather than this like bright green. I don't know. I don't like them at all. And then I'm in the middle of a sequel because I'm trying to finish series, and that is Breath and Bone by Carol Berg. This is the second book in a duology. This is kind of a dark fantasy, almost dark academia adjacent book. This book less so. The first one, Flesh and Spirit, definitely. I'm like, I don't know, a quarter of the way through this one almost, and I'm really enjoying it. We're diving deeper into the magic in this world, which I'm really enjoying. This is about main character Valen, who is part of a family that has magic that has to do with maps. He can he can touch the ground and like sense where things are. He can do things with like books of maps and like see special locations on them. And he gets involved with, in the first book, a monastery, because he's kind of hiding out from his family, and he gets involved in some political machinations there. And I really loved the first book, and I'm excited that I'm getting to this relatively recently after reading that first book, and I hope this is gonna like stick the landing, because the first book had quite a few moments where like I could not stop. I was like, this is really cool and I want to know what's gonna happen. And so far I'm really enjoying this one as well, so fingers crossed that I love it the whole way through. And it's nice kind of wrapping up a duology relatively quickly. Another book I'm currently in the middle of is The Lost Flowers of Alice Hart. This is a book I'm picking up for Odyssey of Pages for a prompt on there, and I've listened to like 5% of this on audio, and I really enjoy it. This is like a beautifully produced book. I don't know like a ton about the plot at this point, but we basically have this young girl, Alice, who is growing up in a very abusive household, but she loves the garden and books, and Alice is taken from her family to be raised by her grandmother on like a farm. This is an Australian novel, so I'm also reading this for her again because I needed a book from Australia. Very hard to get a hold of, but I found this, I think, at a little free library one day, and I was super excited about it. I'm also going to be using this for another Herkyed prompt for having 7+ colors on the cover, and it's a really pretty book. I love all the illustrations, so I am listening to part of it, but I want to read part of it too, just to enjoy like the physicality of the book with all the different like drawings and stuff. This one right now is gonna, I think, be like a sad, heartfelt, more drama than anything else, which within the midst of like fantasy, it's not bad to have something else that I'm reading through. And then one final book that I wanted to talk about is I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, for another reading challenge that I'm doing, which I'm not really talking about on YouTube because I'm just doing it kind of casually through like another Discord. and I need to read a nonfiction for that one. So I decided to pick up I Know Where the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou, because that's one I've almost picked up like 20 times in the past 10 years. I keep thinking I'm going to pick it up and then not picking it up, and I don't know why. So I just decided I was going to do it. I read this on ebook a little bit while I was at work today. I read the first chapter, and the writing is beautiful. So like, what was I holding back for? I don't know. It's just one of those that I keep pushing down the road, and finally I'm going to pick it up and read it. So those are the 4 things that I'm going to be reading in this vlog. It's kind of a random mix of a bunch of things, but I didn't have other books to go with them to make a more cohesive theme. So we're just going to be chatting about the books I'm reading, and hopefully I'll like these. So far, everything is like good. So I'm hoping it stays that way. I'm finished with this one. Thought I'd come update you. This was a little bit of a disappointment for me, unfortunately. I really liked the first third to maybe like half of the book, and then it really dropped off for me. Now, I will say I got sick when I was at the halfway point, and then I was reading very slowly for a few days until I finished it like in a day or two last night and the day before. So that could have had something to do with my enjoyment. But I felt like the first part of this, where we're focusing on Anya, who's our poisoner character, and what she does for her job, was very strong. And then something happens and the plot takes a completely different turn, and I just was not interested in that plot at all. I thought it was like a little weird, almost in a wacky, comical way. I think it was supposed to be like creepy and scary, but it wasn't. It felt almost silly. And I just ended up feeling a little middle of the road with this one. Like, it wasn't terrible, but like, I never want to read it again. I think it's like a 3 stars. I did not like the romance in it. I thought it was very not fleshed out at all and not very interesting. I didn't feel like we really got to know the characters all that well, and so I don't know. This just felt like a departure from the T. Kingfisher that I love, which was really disappointing. But I hope the next book of hers that I read, which will be Snake Eater, will be better, hopefully. I hope so, at least. This one was quite disappointing to me. Okay, I have a little update on my random reading vlog. I am still in the middle of a bunch of things, but we're kind of narrowing the focus a little bit. So I'm halfway through this. I've listened to the entire thing so far on audio. I've been loving it. I've been doing it night before bed while I do like jigsaw puzzles on my phone. I have this app that I like, and I really love the audiobook narrator. I'm listening to it on 1x speed, and she has this lovely slow Australian accent that I just love listening to. The only thing is, there's like 3 people that want the audiobook, and I'm only halfway through it, so I think I'm going to end up having to give the audiobook back before I finish it, so then I'll have to finish it physically, but I'm loving this. This is about Alice, who, when she's a young girl, if you can hear Blue in the background, he's going absolutely insane. He's zooming around. When she's a young girl, she's in an abusive family situation. Something tragic happens. She gets taken in by her grandma. Her grandma owns a flower farm where she sort of allows women who have had a hard time in life, allows them to come stay with her, work on their farm. They have this lovely rapport, and the beginning of the book is Alice growing up and growing both closer and farther apart from her grandma, because her grandma has some issues of her own that she's trying to work through, and Alice, of course, has her trauma, and they kind of form this like tentative alliance, but then as she ages, some cracks start to show, and Alice is trying to figure out where she belongs in the world, and learns about some things that her grandma has done and about her past that are hard, and is really, really good. I'm really liking it. It is just kind of like a family drama, coming of age story. It's really dark at times. There's a lot of hard things that happen, but there is a layer of sweetness to it. So I'm really liking this one. And then I started a short story collection, A Cathedral of Myth and Bone by Kat Howard. I've read 2 short stories in here, and I have to say I didn't like either of them. First one was so short. I kind of liked the idea of it, but it was kind of here and gone and a little vague, and I don't know what we were supposed to get out of it fully. The second one I thought was better, was really interesting. It was about a woman who asks for a miracle and then becomes a saint and learns that maybe that's not the best thing to be. And then the third one, Maiden Hunter Beast, I thought was super cheesy and kind of like roll your eyes cheesy at what it was doing. It didn't make any sense. I did not like it at all. So this is not going great. I will say that 3 stories have been crammed into 38 pages. That's very short for a short story, and that can work sometimes, but I don't think Kat Howard is that strong of a short story writer to be able to make a short story compelling within like 10 pages. Plus, like, the print is quite big. So, like, 10 pages with this size font is not very many words at all. And what's shocking to me is that some of these have been printed in, like, magazines. I think, like, all of these have been printed in magazines before, and I'm like, they're not very good. So the next one that I'm going to be reading is going to be more like a novella. It's like 110 pages or something. It's called Once Future, so I think it's like a retelling of King Arthur, which is not my favorite. So we'll see how that goes, but I think like having something that takes time will be good. What's disappointing me about this is that I read Kat Howard's debut novel, An Unkindness of Magicians, years ago, and I really loved it. So I was really excited to pick up the short story collection, and I'm not finding them good at all. So I'm going to try the novella. I don't usually love King Arthur retellings, so if I don't like it, I'll skip it and try a couple more of the short stories, and then I may DNF it if I'm not liking anything that I'm reading. But this has been on my TBR for like at least 7 or 8 years, so like it was time I got to it. I'm just sad because I thought it was going to be such a hit, and that's why I've saved it, and it's not going super well. And then the other book that I'm reading is Whipple's Castle, and I'm like 15% of the way through. I'm not loving it, but I think I'm going to like it overall. I just need some time with it. We need the characters to grow up a little bit, because right now we're really focused on their teen years. And this author is really into describing like sexual ideation of the teenagers, which is not my favorite thing to read about, them having all these like sexual fantasies. It's a little weird because there's just a lot. So I'm working my way through that. So those are my 3 main reads. Now that I'm done with Hemlock and Silver. I can't remember if there's... Oh, Breath and Bone. Breath and Bone. I'm going to put a pause on this because this doesn't work for Odyssey of Pages. And I don't know. I was just finding it really slow. I'm like 30% of the way through this one. I will come back to it, but I was just finding it really slow, and I didn't want to focus on this. I wanted to focus on books that work for Odyssey of Pages for that first episode so it can come out sooner rather than later, because I know a lot of people are excited to see how the game actually works. So I'm going to put that aside for now, but I'll kind of be dipping in and out of it every once in a while. So that's kind of what we have going on. It's still very random, but it's what we have. Okay, I'm back with some updates on what I've been working on. I think the last time I talked to you, I was working on these 2, and I decided to DNF both of these. This one, I started that longer story that was more like a novella, and I just really don't dig the writing style of Kat Howard's short stories. I think that they feel a little surface level and like they're not really delving into any kind of interesting topic. It did have an interesting structure for that story, but I just didn't have any interest in what was happening, and I really didn't like the short stories. So I think I'm just gonna pass on this one. And then this one, I actually made like a surprising amount of the way through. I want to say I got like 150, 130 pages of the way through. And I decided to put it down because there was just a lot about sex and teenagers like envisioning what it's like to have sex and lots of focus on teenage bodies, which I get is all very realistic when you're talking about things from a teenager point of view. But we're following like 5 teenagers and that's almost all they're thinking about. And it was just so uninteresting and awkward to read about, and I don't know, just not gripping me, which is so sad because at the beginning of this I was really intrigued, and then it just got really bogged down in all of that stuff. So I'm going to pass on this one. And then a book that I finally finished was The Lost Flowers of Alice Hart. I ended up listening to this entirely on audio and did not pick up the pretty book at all, and I loved this. I thought this was such a good read. It did end up being a very like slow, meandering story about a woman's life and the hardships that she comes across as she ages. We kind of watch Alice grow, and things in her past that kind of come back to haunt her, things in her past that come back and are good for her, and it's just about her trying to figure out who she wants to be, who her family is, and just navigating life. And I loved it. I thought it was so good, and I definitely want to read more Holly Ringland. I think she has one other book. I don't know if she has any more than that, but I would highly recommend the audiobook. Lovely Australian accent from the narrator, which was really great, and I really liked this one. And then because I had DNF'd like those 2 books and then another book, I needed something that was going to be a win. So I decided to pick up The Angel of Indian Lake. This is by Stephen Graham Jones. This is the 3rd book in the Indian Lake trilogy. It's a slasher horror novel series. This is the 3rd and final book. I'm definitely wanting to be reading and finishing series, and I'm like 80 pages through it already. These books read super quickly, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm glad I'm getting to this fairly recently after finishing the 2nd one, so we can just wrap up the story. I'm really interested to see how it wraps up because I don't know where it's going at all in this series. So that'll be really interesting to see where Stephen Graham Jones is going with this and how he's going to wrap up Jade's story. I'm back because I forgot to update you on I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. I have been listening to this one, so while my bookmark is only on chapter 4, I'm actually about halfway through the audiobook, maybe a little more than halfway through at this point, and I'm enjoying it. Maya Angelou definitely has an interesting writing style. I feel like I really sink into just listening to her talk about her life. It feels very conversational. It feels like she's not really thinking about it, even though I'm sure she thought about it when she was writing it down, but it just feels like she's kind of hanging out with you and talking. I will say this does feel a little meandering. I don't feel like there's, and it's always weird with memoirs, right? Because I'm like, I don't know what the point is of this. Like, what are we building to? And I don't know if we're building to anything. This is just stories of her life. It feels a little episodic, but it is kind of following a chronological order. And I'm enjoying it. This isn't something that I'm going to be like rating because I don't know how to rate nonfiction very well, if I'm being completely honest. I haven't rated nonfiction in a while just because, I don't know, I feel like it follows such a different scale than fiction. So I don't think I'm going to rate it, but I will say I'm enjoying listening to the audiobook a little at a time, and I'm not like, I'm just enjoying learning about this woman and her life as a young child slash coming into being a teenager. I don't know if this will go through to her adulthood, but I'm about halfway through and I'm enjoying it overall. Okay, I'm here with an update to say that I am over halfway through with The Angel of Indian Lake. I'm enjoying it. I'm on page 240. I have like 200 pages left to go. And this one has the slowest start of all three of the novels, but it also just had some really good moments, like some of the best moments in the series. So I'm hoping that means we're in for a good time for the rest of the book. Like, we've gotten over the setup and now we can just dive into the slasher stuff. So I'm enjoying this, and I think it's going to read faster. I've been reading this for quite a while, just reading it very slowly. And then I also finished I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. I ended up listening to this fully on audio. I didn't read any of it physically. But I enjoyed that one too. Like I said before, I'm not going to rate the memoir, but I just enjoy hearing people's life story. And Maya, she suffered a lot of horrible things that I would hope people wouldn't have to suffer. And the fact that she became who she was is quite powerful to listen. And she talks about that. Like, she talks a lot at the end of the book about how people are amazed at how Black people turn out to be these really like composed, confident, self-aware people. And she's like, of course we do. Look at everything that I've had to go through in my short life, because she was in like early adulthood. And she's like, of course we do. Like, look at everything I've seen and done. Of course I'm going to be this amazing person. Like, so I thought that was really powerful, just her being like, you know what, things were terrible and I shouldn't have had to go through those things, but they also made me who I am. And she's taken the most out of it that she can, even though some of those things are really traumatic and terrible. So I don't know, it was just a really good, it's always good to, I don't know, see life from someone else's perspective. So I also finished up that one, and then when I'm done with this one, that will be the end of this vlog. All right, I finished The Angel of Indian Lake by Stephen Graham Jones. I loved this book, you guys. I feel like the last time I talked to you, I was like, things were just starting to get good, and they stayed good. So while this was a slower first half, I would not say it's bad. I actually think I kind of understand why it was such a slow half once we got to the end of the book. I think I really understood that. So I loved this. We've followed Jade for so long because in between each book in the trilogy, there's a 4-year gap. So she's 8 years older now than when we first met her in My Heart is a Chainsaw, the first book. And she has just grown up so much. I found myself really caring for her as the horror really starts to happen. I was stressed out. I wanted her to be safe from everything that could hurt her. I wanted the people that she cares about to also be safe. I wanted her to not blame herself for things that were happening, because that is definitely a tendency that she has, which is to blame herself. This was a phenomenal ending. I cried multiple times as I was reading this, just because of the pain of these characters and the growth and the love that they have for one another. There's one relationship in here that's just so powerful. So many things, like kind of calling back to the first book and wrapping everything up. This was so well done. I can't believe I doubted Stephen Graham Jones in the first half. I was like, I don't know about this. And he really pulled it off. The author's note made me cry. He was talking about his wife and how she represents a final girl and how she's amazing. That made me cry. I truly loved this. This was really, really a strong book. I would highly recommend this series if you're at all interested in it. And I'm so glad I finished it. So this very random reading vlog is coming to an end. There wasn't a lot of extra footage because I was just kind of working a lot. So I was doing a lot of reading at work. So I didn't really have a lot of fun things in life to share with you, but I got to share with you all the books I read, and we had a lot of misses, but we had some hits. I'm definitely glad that we got through some of the books I DNF'd. It's nice to have those off my shelves, and I'm very excited, looking forward to what's coming in the future. If you are interested in checking out other videos, I'm going to have some really fun ones coming very soon. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and if you just want to leave a comment, because I can't think of a solid question to ask you this time, you can leave, is there an angel emoji? Maybe like an angel or a devil emoji for the Angel of Indian Lake, because that was definitely my favorite. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.